everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing another action figure review. Today, we're going to be looking at the McFarlane DC Multiverse Batman vs. Azrael in his Batman armor from Batman Curse of the White Knight. This is a 2-pack. This is a straight re-release of Azrael in his Batman armor, but the White Knight Batman is a little bit different from before. He does have a cape, has some swords, some sheaths. I ordered my figure from Amazon.com. It was a pre-order. It arrived a couple days early. Here it is today. So let's go ahead and check out the packaging. As you can see at the top, age of 12 plus, DC Multiverse, Batman versus Azrael in his Batman armor. Here are the two figures in the package. I see the sheaths that'll attach to Batman, Azrael's Sword of Sin, Azrael's armor, Batman without a cape, a couple of swords, looks like bat robe with a batarang, and this large fiery base across the bottom. Not much going on the top. One side, Batman versus Azrael in Batman armor from Batman Curse of the White Knight. Other side, Batman versus Azrael. Bottom, bunch of credits. And there is a barcode, in case that helps anybody. And in the back, here are the two figures in combat. And here are a bunch of other recently released McFarlane DC Multiverse figures you should check out. So with no further ado, let's open it up. And of course, I did get two of these sets, one of which to open and enjoy, and one to keep unopened in my complete 6 and 7 inch unopened Batman action figure collection. Here's the 2-pack, next to the single releases of both Azrael in his Batman armor and the White Knight Batman. Here are all the different 2-packs McFarlane has made so far. They're all Batman themed in one way, shape, or form. I don't believe we have official confirmation what the next 2-pack is, but I'm suspecting it might be Dark Knight Returns themed. And here's my entire collection of Batman White Knight comics. We've got numbers 1 through 8, and both cover variations for each issue. We've even got number 1, the special edition. And here's my entire collection of Batman Curse of the White Knight, the second White Knight miniseries. In front of you are books 1 through 8, and both cover variations of each book. Alright, now that we got these figures out of the package, here they are with all their accessories laid out. You get 2 display stands, 2 collector's card, this large fiery diorama base, Azrael's Sword of Sin. Batman comes with a batarang attached to his bat rope for his hip, 2 sheaths for his back, 2 swords for the sheaths. But before we take a look at the accessories, let's talk about and check out the actual figures. So the Azrael Batman armor is a straight re-release from the original version. There are absolutely 0 updates, but Batman has some differences. He doesn't have the cape, he's got 2 gripping hands for the swords, and then he's got these straps on his shoulders for the sheaths on his back. A cool looking Batman, although I think I prefer the White Knight version with the cape, a much more traditional Batman. This is from a very specific part in the story. So let's take a look at the figures. Here's Azrael in his bat armor. Looks fantastic. Sort of reminiscent of his Nightfall Batman armor, but completely modernized and different. Azrael's White Knight bat logo on the front. Bulky armored suit, spikes on the shoulders, on his gauntlets, those infamous Azrael claws, the utility belt on his thigh. It all looks absolutely fantastic, but we've already gone over this guy a good year ago. Looks like double jointed knees, single jointed elbows. Cape looks great. Very pleased with what I'm seeing, except it's more of the same. Then we have Batman, that very stylized White Knight look. They did a fantastic job transitioning from comic to action figure form. Square jaw, angry expression, bat symbols, risen, sculpted, fantastic. Single jointed elbows, single jointed knees, very tall boots, utility belt, area to hold his bat rope. Gauntlets, not painted different color. How you can attach the sheath. Looks pretty nice. Now they look nice for what they are, but if you have the individual releases, I probably would recommend not to bother with this 2-pack. I'm a completist, so I'm definitely going to get all the different Batman releases, no matter how subtle the differences are. But if you have the singles, and you're not a completist, this should be an easy pass. In this video, We're going to take a look at each of the figures individually. We'll check out their accessories, height, and articulation. We'll compare them with some other McFarlane DC Multiverse figures and some other action figures from different various companies. One really cool thing about Batman, he has 2 gripping hands. So if you really wanted to, you could hand swap with the original White Knight Batman. That way he can properly hold with 2 hands on the White Knight Batcycle. Pain in the ass to achieve that, but one small perk from this 2-pack. Now let's check out their accessories, and let's start off with the boring stuff. Here's their display stands. Typical McFarlane stand, black perfect circle, says DC at the bottom, 1 peg for the pegholes on their feet, very thin, very basic. Before we look at each figure individually and look at their own specific accessories, here's this giant fire diorama base. This thing is kind of intended for both figures. It's made of a transparent plastic material, got some orange, got some red. See a little peg here. It looks great. I could see a ton of uses for this. I could even see a Speed Force character maybe coming to an abrupt halt and having sort of a trail of fire. In addition to that, it looks like this thing comes apart. Some of the pieces are detachable. Very, very nicely done. Looks like even more will come apart here, sort of the entire sides of it. So a lot of different posability and display options. Here's the fire, disassembled in 3 different pieces, and then put together in one solid piece. Here are the 2 figures on the fiery display stand. It looks really good. One drawback is it doesn't work unless they're both on it. They sort of balance each other out. Azrael's kind of leaning toward me, Batman kind of toward the back computer. If only one figure's on, it'll topple right over. If I remove Azrael, leave Batman on there, just topples right over. So if you don't have the 2 figures balancing, doesn't really work well with one, at least not in that specific action pose. That's definitely how it's intended to be used. Let's check out Azrael the Batman armor first. I'd say it's a huge missed opportunity to repaint this figure. They could have done a blue paint scheme or a red paint scheme, just like he appeared in Nightfall or Night's End. But I've come to find with these McFarlane 2-packs, usually there's one figure that's straight re-release, and one that has a different paint job or some sculpting differences. The Arkham Asylum 2-pack being the exception. Both those figures were repainted. Azrael comes with a display stand, his Sword of Sin, and a collector's card. We've already looked at his display stand, so let's check out his collector's card. Here's his collector's card. As you can see, it's an image of the figure of Azrael on the front, surrounded by fire, holding his sword. Azrael in Batman armor. On the back, we have a little description. If you want to read that, go ahead and pause now. Here's this Azrael's collector's card, next to the single release of Azrael and Batman armor's collector's card. I did prefer when they used to show the source material they were from. And here it is, next to the silver variant version of the Armored Azrael's card. Now let's look at his sword. Azrael's sword is normally referred to as the Sword of Sin. The sword itself looks pretty good. Long silver blade. The handle has a good amount of sculpting detail, gold and red. Now one controversial thing about the sword, it kind of has a crucifix, and depending on how he holds a sword, the crucifix could be upside down. Some people say that's sacrilegious. When I did the initial review on the red-suited Azrael, I had at least one person say in the comments they refused to buy that figure simply because of the sword. Now, it's not like McFarlane made this up. This is straight out of the pages of the White Knight. I think it looks really cool, the detail's excellent, but I could possibly see how some people have mixed feelings on this. Not that big a deal, it's just representation for a comic panel. McFarlane has now given us 5 different releases of these swords, 4 of which have the same paint scheme, and one is all silver. That one came with the silver variant of the Armored Azrael. And here are a bunch of different versions of Azrael's Sword of Sin that I've gotten over the years. And in case you were curious, the fire that came with the standard Azrael does work with this sword. Here's Azrael holding his sword. He only has one gripping hand. He's holding it with his right hand. And he can hold it with his left hand, but it's pretty loose in there. Now that we've taken a pretty good look at both the figure and his accessories, now let's check out his height. From bottom to top of his head, he's standing at about 7.4 inches tall, which you can translate to about 19 centimeters. Now let's look at his articulation. Start with his head here. Of course, it can rotate from side to side, kind of obstructed from his collar thing here. You can look up and down about that far. Can't tilt his head a little bit from one side to the other. Shoulders, ball joint, goes out about 90 degrees. The shoulder pad is soft, kind of moves out of the way. Up, down, around, all that good stuff. He's got a bicep cut below that. He's got McFarlane's signature butterfly joint between his shoulder and chest area, just increasing range of motion there. Single jointed elbow, 90-degree bend. His wrist has a ball in it, can rotate, and it's going to be hinged as well. He's got a double ball joint in his torso. One in his torso, one in his waist, hidden very nicely, can rotate around, go forward and back. Then at the waist, can also rotate, go forward and back, giving him a very wide range of motion in his torso area, especially for a big, bulky armored figure. Legs, do the splits, about that far. Not a ball joint, but a similar type concept. The rotation, he's got a thigh cut. One of the few McFarlane DC figures that has that. It's also hidden very nicely. Legs go forward about that far. Back, about that much. Double jointed knees, go all the way back. This ankle here, it's got a ball in it. Goes forward and back. Can rotate. Can also tilt and rock. And there's toe articulation. I was curious if there were any differences between this 2-pack Azrael and Batman armor and the single release, and the answer is a big fat no. The 2-pack is on the left, and the single on the right. I was thinking maybe one would have a more shinier armor, slightly different shade of paint. They are 100% identical. Now let's look at the White Knight Batman from the 2-pack. He comes with a display stand, a collector's card, a batarang with a bat rope, 2 swords, and 2 sheaths for his swords. We've already taken a look at the display stand at the beginning, so let's take a look at his collector's card. Here's his collector's card. You can see Batman holding his swords, surrounded by fire. Batman from the Curse of the White Knight. On the back side, there's a little description. If you want to read that, go ahead and pause now. Here's the 2-pack Batman's collector's card, next to the single version of the White Knight Batman's collector's card. I did prefer when they used to use the source material instead of just showing the figure. And here it is, next to the red version of the White Knight Batman's collector's card. Here's his batarang with attached bat rope. It looks pretty good. You can see the rope tied around the batarang, and the rope is looped up. It's intended to go across his belt. You actually can't really use this thing to have him sling on rooftops. Here's Batman with the rope attached to his belt. Here are his swords and sheaths. Swords have a pretty basic silver blade. The handle is pretty nice. Looks like an old Cavalier type sword. Gold handle. Then we have the sheaths. Got kind of a Batman logo holding them together. Black sheath, gold trim at the top and bottom. Peg for the peg hole on his back. Here's Batman without the sheaths attached to his back. He has these straps across his shoulders, and frankly, they simply don't work unless you have the sheaths on. And then, with the sheaths attached, here's Batman holding his 2 swords. And here he is, holstering his 2 swords. Now that we've taken a pretty good look at both the figure and his accessories, now let's check out his height. From bottom to top, standing at about 6.9 inches tall, which can translate to about 17.5 centimeters. Now let's check out his articulation. Starting with his head, can rotate from side to side, can look up about that far, down about that far, can't tilt his head from one side to the other. Shoulders on a ball joint, goes out more than 90 degrees, up, down, around, all that good stuff. He's got that butterfly joint between his shoulder and chest area, increasing the range of motion there, although you can totally see that gap in certain points. Bicep cut below that. single jointed elbow, 90-degree bend. His wrist has a ball in it, can rotate, and it's going to be hinged as well. Double ball joint in his midsection. One is torso, can rotate around, go forward and back. Then one is waist, rotate around, go forward and back. Giving him a pretty good range of motion. Legs, do the splits, almost completely. Not a ball joint, but a similar type idea. Rotation, pretty minimal. They go forward about that far. Back, not too much. Double jointed knees, they go all the way back. Then his ankle here has a ball in it, go forward and back, rotate, can tilt and rock, and there's toe articulation. And I wanted to check out the differences between this White Knight Batman from the 2-pack next to the original single release. The main differences are pretty obvious. The new one doesn't have a cape. He's got the straps across his shoulder for his swords. He also has a second gripping hand. The first one had a fist and a gripping hand. Although I will say the first one was originally pictured with an extra hand, but they didn't include it. And the only other real difference I see is the little knife on his utility belt. This one has a black handle, and this one they were kind of lazy and gave it a yellow handle. Azrael is watching as Batman beats Joker to a bloody pulp. Azrael saw how brutally Batman beat the Joker, so he brings his armored suit to their confrontation. Azrael pulls out his sword, and then Batman takes off his cape, revealing 2 swords. Here's Batman lunging toward Azrael. Fire all over the place. It's about to go down. So I mentioned possibly being able to swap hands with this new White Knight 2-pack Batman and the original release. As you can see, the original release had one fisted hand and one gripping hand, and the new one has 2 gripping hands to hold both the swords. It'd be nice if the original White Knight Batman had 2 gripping hands so he could hold the White Knight Batcycle handlebars properly. Here are both of them with their regular hands. And here's the original White Knight, now with the 2 gripping hands. I got some boiling water, dip the 2 figures in there for about a minute or so, and then swap the hands. Here's Batman, properly holding the handlebars of the White Knight Batcycle. If nothing else, I really felt like the White Knight Batcycle should have come with an extra right gripping hand for this Batman. Now let's check them out, next to some other action figures. We'll start off with Azrael, next to some other Azrael figures, and then Batman and Azrael next to some other White Knight figures, and then we'll check them both out next to some action figures from different various companies. Here's Azrael from the 2-pack on the left, next to the single Azrael Batman armor on the right. Then, next to the silver version of the armored Azrael, here he is, next to the red suit Azrael McFarlane made. This is my favorite Azrael the McFarlane has released, and he is also from Curse of the White Knight. And here, next to the white suit variant, this is the Suit of Sorrows version of Azrael from Curse of the White Knight. Most people are going to use this for Michael Lane, but it was actually intended to be Jean-Paul Valley. Here are all the Azrael figures McFarlane has made so far. Never would have thought he would get 5 releases. Now let's check them out, next to some Azrael figures from different various companies. We've already seen all the McFarlane Azraels together. Here he is, next to a DST, or Diamond Select Toys, Gotham Azrael. This was actually Theo Gallivan under the suit. Then, next to some DC Direct and DC Collectibles Azrael figures. 3 of these are Michael Lane. I am missing the Nightfall DC Direct Azrael and Batman Armored Suit. I would love to add him to my collection. And here he is, next to some Mattel DC Universe Classics Azrael figures. Then, next to a Hasbro Azrael and Batman armor. Here are all the different Azrael figures in the 6 and 7 inch scale that I have. I believe the only one that I'm missing is the DC Direct Nightfall Azrael. Here's a Jean-Paul Valley in civilian attire custom figure that I made. And here's a Mayor Theo Gallivan from the TV show Gotham. In the TV show, Theo Gallivan came to town, worked his way to become mayor, but he was also Azrael at nighttime. And here are a bunch of Assassin's Creed figures that I use for members of the Order of Saint Dumas. They kind of work with the hoods over them. Now let's check this Batman out next to some other relevant figures. Here's the 2-pack White Knight Batman next to the single release White Knight Batman. Then, next to the red edition of the White Knight Batman. Now let's check them both out next to some other action figures, starting off with some other McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. Here they are, next to the original assortment of White Knight figures, Jack Napier, Batman, and Azrael. Here's the entire collection of McFarlane White Knight figures. And one really cool thing the White Knight line has given me is my own squad of GTO officers, Gotham Terrorist Suppression Unit. I use these guys as a special detachment of my GCPD, Gotham City Police Force. Can never have too many cops for Gotham. And here they are, next to some other recently released McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. Now let's check them out, next to some action figures from different various companies, to see how they fit in both scale and style-wise, in case you want to know which lines you can mix them with. Since they're McFarlane figures, they're typically the 7-inch scale. I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of the larger action figure lines I collect, and work my way smaller. Here they are, next to some other McFarlane brothers. In front of you are 5 different action figure lines, all from McFarlane toys, all 7-inch scale. Then, next is more McFarlane toys. These are from different various video game properties. And now, next to some Jakks-specific wrestling figures. And here they are, next to some DST or Diamond Select toys. Then, next to some DC Direct and DC Collectibles figures. And here they are, with some NECA figures. Then, next to some Mattel wrestling figures. And now, next to some Jazzwares AEW wrestling figures. And here they are, next to some Mezco 1/12 collective figures. Then, next to some Mattel DC Universe Classics and Multiverse figures. And here, next to some Mafex figures. Then, next to some Hasbro Marvel Legends. And here they are, next to some SH Figure Arts action figures. And finally, next to some Jazzwares Fortnite figures. Overall, this is a very nice figure set. The packaging is fantastic, presentation's good, the fiery diorama base is top-notch. This Azrael is 100% the same as the previous version, and it was a very nice figure originally. But this one is completely unnecessary if you have the single release. And this Batman, sure he's cool, swords are pretty cool, but I find him worse than the standard version with a cape. The articulation's both pretty good. Yeah, it'd be nice if Azrael had double jointed elbows, but a big bulky figure like that, I'm pretty cool with it. Their accessories are good, the Sword of Sin, Batman's swords, the bat robe, etc. Sculpt and paint are top notch on these guys, but it's just more of the same. If you have the single release of both these figures, you really don't need the 2-pack. If I were to rate this set, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. If there were any differences with Azrael, I'd probably easily bump this up to a 7 out of 10. But as is, just getting some repeat figures is totally unnecessary. So this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say about the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I will talk to you guys real soon.